All right. Well, shalom to each and everybody. We're so blessed to get an opportunity to share some truth with you that hasn't been shared, maybe, and some revelations that maybe haven't been revealed. So it is truly a wonderful day, and there's so much going on, so much happening. It seems like people are struggling, can't understand the chaos, and yet it's been talked about for quite some time, and it is a part of the bringing alive of those that are light. And uh, it really is quite amazing that what the ancient is revealing to us, even as humanity goes forward, uh, headed towards a fixed place, that we are in the middle of a cycle, a very long cycle, and we are coming to an end of it. And it appears that there are things that go on when those cycles come to an end. And so some of you may not know that that's how things have always, I haven't certainly always known it by any means, but it is quite amazing how the archaeology of the past is proving to us what our future may be. And so we're going to take a look. Last week, we jumped off into a deep realm, and I'm not real quite sure that it was maybe as beneficial as I would have liked for it to have been. And I've talked to a couple, and they said, yeah, they were pretty overwhelmed. So we're gonna take a look today at the second discourse of the great Seth. I want to maybe give you a little bit of insight that Seth, who was the first son from Adam, or the last son from Adam, is actually a metaphor for what we came to know as Yeshua. And so the ancient is bringing out that the picture and the corruption and the thought processes and the belief and the worship and all of those things that we possess is something that is like totally outside of the realm of what existed for many thousands of years. And that may be difficult for some, may be really difficult for some, and others might be able to open up and receive it. But I think this will hopefully help you to maybe gain a little understanding. The principle here is that essentially, if you understand the process, that the discourse of Seth is actually a picture of the spirit. So I'm trying to say this. It is a reincarnation of that which we call Yeshua. In fact, he tells us that he has been manifested many times. And so that's quite crazy, and I haven't really met anybody that has any clue that even existed, which is, of course, why I'm here and why Source guides me in the manner in which Source does, is to find the things that nobody knows about that, if you allow it, will totally radicalize your life. Because what we're starting to see is that the fear that's used to control functions in every level. It functions in scholarship, it functions in religion, it functions in politics. And so all of these principles, the gift for those that have been with me, the gift that's been given to you is having knowledge that other people don't. Now, that knowledge doesn't do anything if it's not ignited with light. And I think that you'll find over the next few weeks that Yeshua actually says that. So maybe if you are confused about the soulless ones that die and all of those things, they all work together, and Yeshua actually talks about it. And so the second discourse of the great Seth, just so you know, Jane Roberts has been channeling Seth for quite some time. In fact, all the way back to the 1960s. And if you've ever listened to some of the channelings of Jane Roberts, you'll be blown away, because they are like all about love and kindness and goodness and what humanity was the ideal of the true human. You're going to find out that the true human picture is actually God. And so the second discourse of the great Seth, perfect majesty, the mother and the Savior. And so perfect majesty is at rest in the ineffable light, in truth, the mother of all things. Since I alone am perfect, all of you attain to me on account of the word. For I dwell with all of the majesty of the Spirit, who is a friend equally to us and to our kin. And so the word in baptism. I have uttered a discourse for the glory of our Father. Through his goodness and imperishable thought, and this word comes from him. It is a matter fit for slavery to say, we shall die with Christ. Which means with imperishable and undefiled thought. Ponder that for a second. I love as more that I read the text and terms that were defined to you by human theology just don't bear up very well. And if you will allow your mind to be open, you will begin to resonate in many of these logos, many of these words of truth that come. That is the purpose of them. Certainly is to resonate but at the truth level. And so we were blessed to find out that there is a distinction, and I don't know that you have, but if any of you have experienced telling the truth and feeling dissonance come from the people, they turn off, they don't want to hear it, they make fun of you, they do all of it. He talks about all of this stuff, but I've been talking about it for a while, that just because something doesn't resonate with someone doesn't mean that that someone is wrong. And that's really hard for people who are finding the truth, because no people that you know are going to most probably resonate with you. If you go home and you tell your Christian mama that she's believed a false Messiah and Jesus never was, she's not going to resonate with you. If you go tell your grandpa that all that he was taught in Christianity is a lie, he's not going to resonate with you most probably. So it's actually a sign, but it's a different sign than what most people think. Most people think, oh, well, I must have messed up and had an error. And if inside of you directly you know that it is truth, then never back up from anyone, no matter how much they don't like it or how much they don't like you. You have to maintain truth, but you have to know that that which you speak is truth, and that's the big deal. And so I have uttered a discourse for the glory of our Father. Why did he come and say these words? Was for the glory of the Father. Through his goodness and imperishable thought, and this word comes from him, direct revelation. It is a matter fit for slavery to say, we shall die with Christ, which means with imperishable and undefiled thought. That's what it means according to the Gnostic belief and Yeshua's teachings. To die with Christ is to die totally pure on the inside. What an incomprehensible wonder. The scripture regarding the ineffable water in us, among us, is this word. I am in you, and you are in me. You remember I've been telling you for a while that really the most horrible thing, and the lack of understanding about love your neighbor as yourself, is because loving your neighbor is loving yourself, and yet that still has not reached very many people's consciousness at all. Okay, it will be one of the defining, so simple, but one of the defining determinations is when you begin to treat people the way that you treat yourself. And most will say, oh, well, I do, or I try to be nice. It's not about those things. It's on a much deeper spiritual, metaphysical level, friends. And so he says, the scripture regarding the ineffable water in us, among us, is this word. So this ununderstandable, unchangeable, it just no ability, or will we ever possess the ability to understand the comprehension of the word, is in this. I am in you, and you are in me. So what's being said? If on a metaphysical level, I had people that taught children that Jesus was in your heart, as if they cut you open and you would see a little bearded Jew in there waving at you. Hi, I'm in here. I am in you, and you are in me. What's being referred to? I think it's the most valuable question that we could ask ourselves. What is being talked about? And of course, consciousness is what is both in him and is in you. And listen, he says, so I am in you and you are in me, just as the Father is in me. So you can see, predating Christianity and the massive corruption that the Bible is, you can then see that it's not difficult when Yeshua would be recorded, although nobody knows what it means in Christianity, when he says, do you not know that you are little gods? Just so that you remember or get a thought, when Yeshua spoke those words, he was talking to the high priest of Israel. And he was not talking to him to say those words because the person knew or didn't know. It was actually brought as a revelatory statement to him against all that they stood for. Understand, you have never known until recently that all that is Christianity and all that is Judaism and all that is other religions, but those two most specifically, which control most of the world, that the whole narrative is a lie. It's never been true. And he speaks quite a lot in the next couple of weeks. You'll be amazed at how much what I'm saying to you is actually setting the stage to prepare for another great revelation download about reality of everything. And so he says this. He says, what an incomprehensible wonder. The scripture regarding the ineffable water in us, among us, is this word. I am in you, and you are in me, just as the Father is in me and in you. So before it was recorded in the Bible, he was teaching that the Father, that God is in us, with no guile at all. God is not in you with guile. In fact, there is no guile. For those of you that are still, and it's going to be very difficult, it's a long journey for sure, to come to the point that you begin to deny the separation that you have been washed with your whole life that supposedly would make you clean. The washing of the water of the corrupted word simply means that you washed yourself totally and completely corrupted. It's only when the water is pure that the washing of the water of the word changes you. And that's exactly what's being manifest in the world at large, is that we have been bathing in a shower of corruption. There can be no way for you to see the truth under that cycle. And so he says, let's call together an assembly. Let's examine this creation of his and send someone, just as he also examined thoughts in the regions below. I said this to all the members of the whole vast assembly of the majesty, so that they rejoiced, and the entire household of the Father of truth rejoiced. Since I am of them, I reminded them of the thoughts that had come from the undefiled spirit and had descended to the water, that is, to the regions below. A single thought was in all of them. A single thought was in all of them. Since it came from a single source. There is only one source, and the source has only generated one thought. And that must be in you. They expressed their decision to me, and I concurred. I agreed with them, and I went forth to reveal glory to my kin, my friends in the Spirit. Now notice he did not say that humanity are all his friend in the Spirit. That is becoming very prevalent, that all are not. And so those in the world that had been prepared by the will of our sister Sophia, and I pulled off of the Pistis Sophia because, to be quite honest with you, I'm not quite at all sure that most people are capable. There's so much allegory that we are unconscious to that I just don't feel like we're ready. Would it have been beneficial if you could have hung, and if you would study 7 nights a week for the expression, then inevitably we would have made it through it with great wisdom and understanding. But it really requires that. And so those in the world had been prepared by the will of our sister Sophia. Sophia is faith in wisdom. Pistis, faith. Sophia, wisdom. So the whole thing has to do with faith and wisdom. That's why when it's written in the Bible, although it's corrupted the context around it, but when James, Yaakov, the brother of Yeshua, when he says, let anyone who lacks wisdom ask. There's more to that statement, and I can't tell you the countless Christians that I've had say, well, I asked God yesterday for wisdom and I made this decision, and any human could have seen that it was not wisdom from God that they were functioning in. Because they have a corrupted narrative. They have a corrupted context. So they're asking for things that never were what was being said in the first place. Friends, this is the greatest corruption I've ever encountered in my life. I was told that Moses knew, folks, just so you know, the flood that came on the earth came 3,000 years before Moses ever walked the face of this earth. Longer from the flood was Moses than we are from Yeshua. Longer. Every bit of that narrative of the Old Testament is a corruption. And so those in the world had been prepared by the will of our sister Sophia, whose indiscretion was without guile. Now there's a concept here. There is a concept still of sin. There is a concept still of repentance. There is a concept still of guile. But those things don't take on, in reality and actuality, the human applied concepts, constructs of those words. whose indiscretion was without guile. She was not sent out, nor did she request anything from the realm of the all. So she didn't do this to be a bad person. The majesty of the assembly and the fullness when she first came to prepare homes and habitations for the child of light. From the elements below, she derived collaborators to construct bodily dwellings for them, but in their vainglory they fell into ruin. Yet it was in these dwellings that those in the world came to live, i.e., the human body. You get you should be feeling a warmth and a fullness. It's not going to alleviate confusion if you're confused. It's not going to alleviate frustration if you're frustrated. But if you are balanced looking for truth, you will then begin to see that even this picture is maybe slightly askewed from what you might have thought reality was with wisdom. Wisdom did not intentionally go out to do something wrong. Wisdom wanted to experience what creation was. We are supposed to be here as divine consciousness experiencing itself in material matter. If you can understand that, it's a mouthful and it's really hard to get your mind around, but that is the only purpose that we are on this earth, is to experience for ourselves, for divine consciousness, what it is like to be in the situations that we find ourselves in and encounter. And so in that way, it hopefully will make it easier, and you hopefully will be able to go through things in peace. And there's always an if you are one of these that is functioning in the realm in which Yeshua is talking about, not those that are outside, because they do the same things, but he's very clear that it's not the same outcome and it hasn't the same value. So for many of you, it's kind of like me telling you that you have to, there is a definition between human and there is a definition between higher self. We're almost two complete individuals inhabiting the same space. If that maybe helps some of you clear it up, how do you get rid of what you perceive to be really you, when in fact it's not you at all? It's what's been constructed and you have accepted as being you, instead of going inside and finding that which truly is you. And that's how I can watch people's behavior and know whether they're looking inside. And it doesn't mean that you don't constantly contend, even as you begin to grow. Ascended masters still have to gain mastery and control mastery over their physical self, the you, the ego. But they become more adept at doing that, and we are supposed to as well. And so he says, I reminded them of the thoughts I said to all the members of the whole vast assembly of the majesty, that they rejoiced, and the entire household of the truth rejoiced, since I am of them. I reminded them of the thoughts that had come from the undefiled spirit and had descended to the water, that is, to the regions below. A single thought was in all of them, since it came from a single source. They expressed their decision to me, and I concurred, and I went forth to reveal glory to my kin, my friends of spirit. Those in the world had been prepared by the will of our sister Sophia, whose indiscretion was without guile. She was not sent out, nor did she request anything from the realm of the all. The majesty of the assembly and the fullness when she first came to prepare homes and habitations for the child of light. From the elements below, she derived collaborators to construct bodily dwellings for them, but in their vainglory they fell into ruin. Yet it was in these dwellings that those in the world came to live. And since they were prepared by Sophia, they are ready to receive the saving word of the ineffable one, and the majesty of the assembly of all, those who still are in waiting, and those who are already in me. And I approached a bodily dwelling, and I evicted the previous occupant. This is quite crazy. Okay, this would be, if you would, the spirit that became Yeshua, that lived in Yeshua, that also is the spirit that lived in Seth, and also is the spirit that lived in multiple other human houses over the course of time. Total reincarnation concept that Yeshua is exposing. And I approached a bodily dwelling. Remember, I told you recently that there are people who have come, who have had experiences of being taken in mid-flight after death directly to reincarnation, and that there have been humans that have recognized and voiced that they were asked by other ethereal spirit beings to borrow their house because there was a job they needed to come in and do. And so that spirit was released and another spirit inhabited. It's a near-death experience, only it's not you that went back into your body, it's someone else that went back into your body. And so he says this, I approached a bodily dwelling, and I evicted the previous occupant, and I went in. This is Yeshua, folks. Reincarnation, near-death experience in a nutshell. The whole multitude of archons were upset. And all the material stuff of the rulers and the powers born of earth began to tremble at the sight of the figure that had a composite image. I was in it. I was in it. I did not look like the previous occupant. And just so you know, there are some people that are seers that look back, and if you've heard the term doppelgangers, and if you've seen the pictures of Matthew McConaughey when he lived during the 1700s, and people just marvel at this stuff, and of course it gets mediaized, but the reality is that when you leave your body, the essence of who you are is exactly who you are, not the human essence, the true essence. And we apparently possess the look. I look like this outside of this physical body. That's why oftentimes when people see spirits, they see them and they look the same as they did when they were alive. Because they are the same. And I went in, the whole multitude of archons was upset, and all the material stuff of the rulers and the powers born of earth began to tremble at the sight of the figure with the composite image. I was in it, and I did not look like the previous occupant. He was a worldly person. So that kind of gives us a picture that it's capable for beings of light to inhabit bodies that the person that resided there before them was not, quote unquote, what you might say, a godly person. I think that we've probably seen this happen in front of us. If you've ever encountered in the course of your life someone who was a very mean person, and then there was a point in their life when all of a sudden it was as if they completely changed. They were no longer the person that completely that they had been. It's like, this is a different person, but they look the same. That's exactly the experience, and that does happen, and they do have scientific notes of that it's as if two different people have inhabited that. And so I was in it. I did not look like the previous occupant. He was a worldly person. But I am from, not in heaven, I am from above the heavens. Just so you know, the pleroma, the monad, and barbello exist not at the heavens, above the heavens. I did not defy them, and I became an anointed one. But neither did I reveal myself to them in the love coming from me. So it's almost as if he intentionally cut the flow off of what he truly is. So it kind of goes back to the thing that I sing often, and when I don't sing it, I often find myself in more struggle when I remind, it's not me trying to convince myself. I know that I am that. I know that I struggle with my humanity, and oftentimes I live outside of what I truly am, as I have my whole life. But that's getting less and less and less, and I watch the cycles that come as I fight and trudge over, and it's like beating yourself out of a wet paper sack. You can't hardly seem to find the edges, but when you break out, then all of a sudden it's a breath of fresh air. And so he says, I am from above the heavens, but I did not defy them, and I became an anointed one, but neither did I reveal myself to them in the love coming from me. Yeshua is the essence of love, friends. God, monad, all, source, are pure and perfect love. Why is the thing that will increase your frequency more than anything else joy and peace and happiness and love? Why does Paul tell us, but of all of these things, faith, hope, and love, you must have faith, you must have hope, but above all of them, the strongest force, which is who all is, or source is love. When you begin to function and resonate in love, your frequency soars through the roof. When your frequency soars through the roof, the archons no longer have control of you. When you let your frequency diminish and you fall back down into density, the archons attack you again. And so if you've ever experienced wonderful periods of bliss, often very short times, but still resonating nonetheless, and then you find yourself back into the turmoil of chaos, it's because you have dropped in frequency again. You have dropped in love again. And that's why you live in such turmoil. Love is the answer. What John Lennon said, all we need is love, friend, that was the most potent metaphysical statement ever made in humanity. Just so you know, he was a spirit being. And so, and neither did I reveal myself to them in the love coming from me. Rather, I revealed that I am a stranger to the regions below. So there was a reason why he did not expose his love. There was a great disturbance with confusion and restlessness in the whole world and in the council of the archons. So for many of you who still are sitting at the place where you think that all of that archon stuff isn't real, I'm sorrowful to tell you, but you cannot believe it. You can struggle with it all you want. But it's functioning and it's controlling you no matter whether you see it or don't. And so I was sitting in the whole council of the archons. Some were convinced when they saw the mighty deeds I accomplished. They are of the generation of Adonios, and if you remember back a few months ago when we went through all of the different spirit realms, Adonios was there, very prominent. Yeshua hasn't lost his mind and forgotten what was written earlier. And are descended from the one who fled from the throne to Sophia of hope, the wisdom of hope. And just so you know, the Sophia of hope, the Sophia of expectation of source is one of the most powerful things that we can have and learn and grow in our lives. I haven't fully comprehended the totality, nor may I ever, but I promise you, the more that we continue to put our expectation in the expectation of what it is that source is, what he is doing, what he will do for us, what we can do for him, when we function in that expectation, it is very, very potent. In fact, it's second in potency for frequency to love. Faith, hope, and love. Faith, wisdom. Pistis, Sophia. The faith of wisdom. We must believe that wisdom is and that wisdom has the power. Then we must hope, which is to expect that that power can fulfill what it was done. And by doing those two, it brings us into a place of love, which is the highest frequency that you can attain, which will free you when you die and you have to encounter the archons because they want you. They crave you. They desire you. They need you. If you've never felt important to anyone, that's a good sign of how important you are to the archons. And so, they are of the generation of Adanaos and are descended from the one who fled from the throne to Sophia of hope, since she had previously given indication about us and all of those with me. They all were moving about. Others hurried to inflict every sort of punishment on me from the world ruler and his accomplices. They were restless of mind about what they would plot against me. And just so you know, I will say, every word that he says here, you should expect, if you are walking in truth and light, you should expect to encounter this. He's also painting for us the way that we function, as I've said, the way that we navigate this new realm which now exists, which we are light, living in a material world, having a conscious experience which we have never had any knowledge of in our whole lives. Whether we've been alive 2 seconds or 200 years would not make any difference. And so, others hurried to inflict every sort of punishment on me from the world ruler and his accomplices. They were restless of mind about what they would plot against me. Many people are functioning and doing that now. And the deeper and the further the truth I spin, the more that I recognize that happening, both to others as well as to myself. They thought their majesty was everything, and they also told lies about the human being and all of the majesty of the assembly. They were incapable of knowing the Father of truth. So just so you realize, they will never be able to know the truth. The human being of majesty. They usurped the name through corruption and ignorance, through a flame of fire and a vessel created for the destruction of Adam, made to conceal all of those who likewise are theirs. That's why there's a metaphysical thing, that an alchemical thing that goes on here. When Yeshua says that you must make the outside become the inside, and the inside become the outside, the picture is that in the spirit realm, we are seen by the light that we emanate. You feel it. They call it in science, they call it the aura. They have measured it with electronic devices that the energy of you extends. Usually it's the halo you see in the Catholic picture that goes around the elliptical, the egg shape, which is tied metaphysically to the whole concept of all of the things that we called evil of Isis and ancient wisdom that we were told pagan then and told by the Bible as a curse then, and now we find out was in reality the truth that they hated and wanted to destroy. Because if you ever know that you are powerful, they will never have power over you again. And since we've been under their control for all of our lives, they're not really okay with us finding out the truth. And so, they were incapable of knowing the Father of truth, the human being of majesty. I wanted you to see that statement because it's really significant. You will hear, and have heard, I've said it, and you might not have caught it, but about the true human being. And the true human being is the majesty. We right now are not the true human being. We see it. So in a spiritual context is what I'm trying to say. They usurped the name through corruption and ignorance, through a flame of fire and a vessel created for the destruction of Adam, made to conceal all of those who likewise are theirs, the body. You realize that prior to Adam manifesting as a body, that it tells us in the garden that they were both, we we had a picture that they had a spiritual cloud around them and they couldn't see. No, dear friends, the reality is prior to Adam and Eve having bodies, prior to that, they were the perfect higher self consciousness. That's why they had no sex, because there is no sex in the consciousness. There will be no male and female. And so when it says that there was no sin and they didn't look at each other sexually and all of that concept, it's because they were actually minus the human body, which leaves the eternal self. And so the rulers from the realm of Yaldabaoth is the demiurge. Yaldabaoth is the head of the archons, the demiurge, disclosed the circuit of the angels. That is what humanity was seeking, that they might know the true human. For Adam, the model creature, appeared to them. So throughout their dwelling place, there was agitation and fear that the angels surrounding them might take a stand against them. For those offering praise, I died. Though not really, that their archangel might be useless. And so the arrogance of the world ruler. Then the voice of the world ruler announced to the angels. Remember? World ruler. Who is he talking about is the world ruler? Let's see, because it also tells you who is not the God that is presented to you in the Bible that we conflicted and had dissonance about because of getting his name right. His name is Yaldabaoth. Then the voice of the world ruler announced to the angels. So who rules this world? The demiurge, the archon. I am God, and there is no other beside me. I laughed heartily when I reflected upon how conceited he was. He kept saying over and over, who is the human being? The whole host of his angels who had seen Adam in his dwelling place laughed at its insignificance. Thus their thought turned away from the heavenly majesty who is the true human. The heavenly majesty is the true human. When we come to fullness as a true human is when we have turned to pure light. It's a scam. It's been a scam. So, thus their thoughts turned away from the heavenly majesty who is the true human, whose name they perceived in the insignificance of a dwelling place. They are inferior, senseless in their empty thought and in their laughter, and so, because of that, because they were senseless, they were corrupted. The entire majesty of the fatherhood of the Spirit was at rest in his realms. The entire majesty of the fatherhood of the Spirit was at rest. And I was with him, since I have a thought of a single emanation from the eternal and unknowable ones, undefiled, immeasurable. I disturbed and I frightened the whole multitude of the angels and their ruler, and I placed a small thought in the world. I examined all with flame and fire through my thought, and all they did through me. There was trouble and strife around the seraphim and the cherubim, whose glory will perish. Does anybody see what's being painted here for you? Even all of those things that people worship now about the spirit realm are all part of the archonic realm. and commotion around Adianos on every side and around their dwelling place, all the way to the world ruler who said, "Let us seize him." Others said, "This plan will never work out, for Aniados knows me through hope." In the mouth of lions. I was in the mouth of lions, and they hatched a plot against me to counter the destruction of their error and foolishness. But I did not give in to them as they had planned. I was not hurt at all. So there's a piece here, I think, for each of us that we could really benefit if we could learn this concept. And that is, all the time that your emotion screams to you how defiled you are because somebody didn't act the way you wanted, or somebody didn't talk the way you wanted, or somebody didn't acknowledge you the way you wanted, or somebody didn't make you something the way you wanted. Ego. The hurt is inside of you. It's not the thing. And it's only when you learn that that's not hurting you. It's actually not learn it. It's actually when you become the knowledge, the wisdom, that it really doesn't make any difference what people say or what they don't say. It really doesn't matter whether you're ever acknowledged or never acknowledged, unless your ego's ruling you. And so, he says, but I did not give in to them as they had planned. I wasn't hurt at all. Though they punished me, I did not die in actuality, but only in appearance, that I might not be put to shame by them as if they are part of me. Remember, here's another allusion to all of us are part of the one that are part of the one. The non-soulful beings that exist that are not part of the light, those beings exist, and this doesn't apply to them. This is only talking about those who have the divine spark in them. And so he says, though they punished me, I did not die in actuality. Only my body died, but only in appearance. It only appeared to them that I was dead, that I might not be put to shame by them as if they are part of me. That's huge. I freed myself of shame. I freed myself of shame, and I did not become faint-hearted because of what they did to me. And I think probably if you're human, you've certainly experienced that a lot going through the course of your life. You become faint-hearted. You get discouraged when you don't get things the way you want them, or people don't react the way that you wanted them to. And he says, I did not become faint-hearted because of what they did to me. I would have become bound by fear, but I suffered only in their eyes and their thought, that nothing may ever be claimed about them. So you see the picture here of him recognizing what's going on with the physical body, and yet that it's not what's going on with the internal body, with the spirit body. But I suffered only in their eyes and in their thought, that nothing may ever be claimed about them. The death they think I suffered, they suffered in their error and their blindness. And I've watched this 1,000 times already in my life. The death that people try to impose on me inevitably is the death that they pose on their self. Whatever thing that you sow is what you reap. Whatever thing. And unfortunately, that's so clichéic because of Christianity and the corruption, but at the spirit soul level, that principle is ever working. So the death they think I suffered, they suffered in their error and blindness. Folks, do you know how many of us are destroying our own self, and we sit around and weep and piss and whine and moan about how bad life is and how bad people treat us, and the reality of it is that you are probably sowing most of that seed yourself. Now, if you're not a being of light and you have no expectation of truth, well, then that'll be a bad thing and you won't resonate with it. But on the other side, if you are a being of light and you have the expectation of the hope of wisdom coming to you so that you can grow, learn, and become the true human, then that's a totally different message. There is no condemnation, not to everybody. There is no condemnation to those who walk in Christ Jesus. Now, if you are beginning to learn, then you should understand that what that actually means is totally the opposite of what they programmed you in Christianity. Yeshua didn't care about the physical body. He didn't care about what you did to him. He was living in another place, and that place is where we are supposed to live. That is the remembering that's happening, that's been happening for 7,000 years. And so I would have become bound by fear, but I suffered only in their eyes and in their thoughts. If it had been real, I would have been like everybody else, and I would have been full of fear, and I would have been bound up. But that was only what they saw. That wasn't the truth. And so they nailed their man, that nothing may ever be claimed about them. The death they think I suffered, they suffered in error and blindness. They nailed their man to their death, my physical body to what they used to kill me, their man to their death. Why? Because they're carnal. Their thoughts did not perceive me, since they were deaf and blind. By doing these things, they pronounce judgment against themselves. Wow. As for me, they saw me and punished me, but someone else, their father, drank the gall in the vinegar. It was not I. So now you understand the metaphysical and the mystical significance to the whole gall and the vinegar thing. That's why he wouldn't accept it. It was actually a laughing at the demiurge for what was going on. Because you're going to kill this body, but you're still not going to kill me. They were striking me with a scourge, but someone else, Simon, bore the cross on his shoulders. Someone else wore the crown of thorns, and I was on high, poking fun at all the excesses of the rulers and the fruit of their error and their conceit. I was laughing at their ignorance. Wow. So what if you allowed yourself for a minute to believe that there is a place where you metaphysically can live and function in a human body and check out of humanity? You know the way that you'll do it? One of the major pieces of that is killing ego. Because ego is what ties you to all of these things that he's telling you that have no tie on me. I love this. The laughing Jesus. Coming down past the rulers, I brought all their powers into subjection. When I came down, no one saw me, for I kept changing my forms on high, transforming from shape to shape. So when I was at their gates, I assumed their likeness. So when somebody tells you that the archons can shape shifts and you can look at an archon and it can look like a human or it can look like a spirit or I truly honestly believe that it will be proven out even if after the end of everything. I think that you will be surprised that all of the demons that people see are all simply archons that know what their mind is, so they bring them what causes the most fear. All of the things that you see in your mind are things that you are creating from your fear. Whether we like that or don't. And if you disagree with that, it's okay. But when those dreams come and they terrify you, you might ask yourself, did that build me up? Or did that cause me to move in fear? And if it caused you to move in fear, then I can tell you right now, it wasn't from source. It came from the archonic realm. They know your mind better than you ever will. They know exactly what thought to put in your mind to make you be rebellious, to make you be self-centered, to make you be egotistical, to make you feel guilt, to make you feel pride, to make you feel every negative emotion that exists. And they only need to do is put that thought in your mind and you run with it like a banshee. And they do that constantly. So, I brought all their powers into subjection when I came down. No one saw me, for I kept changing my forms on high, transforming from shape to shape. So here it could be said that Jesus is a shapeshifter. So when I was at their gates, I assumed their likeness. I passed by them quietly. I saw their realms, but I'm not afraid or ashamed because I'm pure. And just so you know, one of the things that you will learn if you continue to study about the archons, especially when it comes to the death and the journey to the pleroma, or actually it's now the journey to the 13th level, which is actually where you enact yourself to come back into the earth to help humanity, what some call the indigo children, the star beings, the light workers. All of those things are very true. They're very, very, very known. The only people that don't know them are us. That is the 13th step of the ascension from here to the pleroma, is that you of your own choice, not reincarnation, of your own choice, come back in to work and help humanity. And so I passed by them quietly. It wasn't that he didn't see, but he was an observer. If you've studied any mystical psychology, they will all tell you that you must become an observer. It's how you control your emotions so that you quit being emotional in a spaz and you end up every time you turn around, you live in a new drama every day because of your mind. And it is a journey, and it is sometimes quite difficult to deal with overcoming yourself, but it is doable if your heart is pure. And so he says, I was speaking with them and mingling with them. So did he run? No. In fact, he goes right into the middle of them. Why? Because he knows he's pure. It doesn't matter what they know. And I was speaking with them and mingling with them through those who are mine. Jealously, I trampled on those who are harsh towards them, those that are mine. And I put out the fire. I was doing all of this by my will to complete what I willed in the will of the Father above. So his will was the Father's will. Bringing up the children of the Majesty from the region below. And so we brought the child of the Majesty hidden in the region below to the height. There I am in the aeons that no one has seen or understood, where the wedding of the wedding robe is. Okay, this is a piece that goes with everything you never knew and ever would know about the true wedding supper of the Lamb concept that was corrupted and put into the Christian Bible. The wedding supper of the Lamb is something that happens inside of you. It's not an external event. And so he says, where the wedding of the wedding robe is, it is the new wedding, not the old. And it does not perish, for the new bridal chamber is of the heavens, and it is perfect. As I have revealed, there are three ways, and this is an undefiled mystery in the spirit of the eternal realm. That is, not destroyed or divided or even discussed, for it is indivisible, universal, and it is permanent. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my word will never pass away. And God said, and it was. And so the soul from on high will not discuss error here or carry herself away from these realms that are here. So she won't even discuss error. She will be carried forth when she is liberated and treated nobly in the world, and she stands before the Father with no difficulty or fear. I would say that if you have difficulty and fear, you won't stand in front of the Father. Forever communing with what? With the mind of the ideal power. Whole power, complete power, perfect power, special power, all of those fit the ideal. The fullness, if you would. These will see me from every side with no animosity, for they see me and they are seen, mingling with them. They did not put me to shame, and guess what? They were not ashamed. They were not afraid in my presence, and they will pass by every gate without fear and be perfected in the third glory. So I've said this to some because what happens when we die, quite honestly, past getting to a place of preparedness, is really more important than what happens while you live. So one of the experiences that we are to go through here is we are to learn who we are, learn how to navigate in that realm, so that when we die physically in the body and our consciousness leaves, we are not grabbed hold of by the archons, because those that are functioning in sources realm and in sources love at source frequency, the archons have no hold over you. You are a sovereign. You are a king over them. They have no authority. If you are not functioning at that frequency, they control you. So when you hear people say that I was grabbed out of midair and thrown back in, it means that they have no consciousness of the journey that it takes to ascend to Pleroma. This is really crazy because it really is destroying a whole lot of other belief systems that exist in our world. Some of it partial parts of the whole sovereignty reincarnation theme. It's a lie, and it's being propagated that you weren't good enough, so you had to come back in. The truth is you had no authority because you weren't sovereign and you did not know the power and source, so you could not stop them from making you come back in. That's the reality. So when I tell you, if you die today, you are going to first encounter the first level of archons, and you will ascend from there through 7 layers. And if you are the true thing, if you are in awareness and you know who you are, not who your physical self is, then you have authority to move into the realm of source. And if you do not, at any of those 7 layers, if you have given up your sovereignty, I promise you, you're going to be back in and you're going to live another life. And if you don't get it then, you're going to be back in and you're going to live another life. And if you don't get it then, you're going to be back in and you're going to live another life. Well, what's going on that everybody is talking about is this ascension thing that is going on is a special, unique time. When this season, this time is over with, if that cycle continues as it has for the last 200,000 plus years, if that ends up being the case and it does continue on, then it will be the same. Pretty heavy. What do you want to do when you die? Do you want to go to the presence of source, or do you want to be thrown back in to live another life so you can hopefully feed the archons plenty of fear energy? And so the soul from on high will not discuss error here or carry herself away from these realms that are here. She will be carried forth when she is liberated and treated nobly in the world. She stands before the Father with no difficulty or fear, forever communing with the mind of ideal power. These will see me from every side with no animosity, for they see me, and they are seen, mingling with them. They did not put me to shame, and they were not ashamed. They were not afraid in my presence, and they will pass by every gate without fear and be perfected in the third glory. The crucifixion interpreted. The world was not receptive to my visible exaltation. My third immersion in an image that was perceptible. Do you understand what he just said to you with those words? He's telling you now about his third incarnation. Yeshua, the spirit, the light, the consciousness that we call Yeshua, has manifested at least 3 times in 3 different humans. We don't know at this point who those were or if that was all of them. I would say that it's probably not. But it's highly possible it could have just as easily been Yogananda, Krishna, and Buddha. But he has incarnated 3 times prior. My third immersion in an image that was perceptible, something that you could see. The flame of the 7 authorities was extinguished, and the sun of the powers of the rulers set. Darkness overcame them, and the world became impoverished. They bound this one with many bonds, and they nailed him to the cross, and they secured him with 4 bronze nails. He ripped the temple veil with his own hands. An earthquake shook earth's chaos, for the souls of the dead were released and resurrected, and they walked out in the open. They laid aside ignorant jealousy and lack of insight by the dead tombs, and they put on the new person. They had come to know the blessed, perfect one of the eternal, incomprehensible Father and the infinite light. That's what I am. When I came to my own and united them with me, there was no need for many words. Our thought was one with their thought. Just so you know, that's mental telepathy. Yeshua accessed with them thought to thought, mind to mind. He didn't need you to speak. He already knew what you were thinking. Wow. So when I came to my own and I united with them, there was no need for many words. Our thought was one with their thought, so they understood what I was saying. We made plans for the destruction of the rulers, and in this I did the will of the Father. That's what I am. When we left our home and we came down to this world and became embodied in the world, we were hated and persecuted both by those who are ignorant and those who claim to be enriched with the name of Christ. You're not going to be able to deal with this. How many pages I got? Yeah, I guess we're going to have to wait till next week to do that. But those who claim to be enriched with the name of Christ, though they are vain and ignorant. Who are those who claim to be enriched with the name of Christ? Who exactly do you think Yeshua is speaking of? Like irrational animals, they do not know who they are. They hate and they persecute those whom I have liberated. If these people would only shut their mouths for once, they would start weeping and groaning in futility because they have not really known me. Rather, they have served two masters and even more. You, however, will be winners in everything. You, the enlightened ones. You, the ones that come to remembrance that you are supernatural and divine, that have that in you. In the uprightness of our love, we are innocent, pure, and good. I am love, I am peace, and I am light. And we have the mind of the Father and an ineffable mystery. Wow. Well, I'd like to carry on, but I understand I'm not really very interesting, and many people are already overwhelmed. Guys, let me ask you a question. Can you go tomorrow and can you find the truth? It's very sad how great the deception is. And I'm so thankful because I'm starting to learn. There's a saying, and I shared this with somebody because it came to mind when these things come. Source has brought something to mind. But it talks about a time, and it's talking in the direction of the end of time, and it says that there will be a time in humanity when people will weep for those who are living, not those who have died. Friends, we're in the process of that conversion right now. The more that people enlighten, the more that they can see what the truth is, the more that they will generate. Many people, even that are walking in higher levels of enlightenment, are not aware of the things that you've been blessed to be shown. It really is an amazing time. Source is so long-suffering with humanity. And there is already shifts that are beginning, supernaturally spiritual shifts. People don't see it. They rebel against it. They don't like being around it because they know more. But I hate to tell you, that may not be the truth. And so I hope you will take some of those concepts about who Yeshua, the reincarnated one, the one who tells what the truth about Christianity is. I assure you, I've said it in the past, both seriously and jokingly, but if Yeshua came back to this earth today, the first people that would crucify him would be the Christians. They don't know him, and they don't want to know him. And the fact that that's the case is a horrible indictment. And so I hope for you, whatever it is, whoever it is that Source has brought this way, I fully trust that he has plans that I can't even imagine. Fully trust that. And just as is happening on our earth, that we're about to come to a place of purging of the earth again, it's not the first time. I have to tell you, friends, there's a lot of knowledge that's coming out about what really has gone on, and it's pretty mind-boggling. For all that we've been told, history doesn't agree with 90% of it. And the opinions and the thoughts of scholars who have kept people in bondage by telling them that the ancient is not the truth, the ancient is not the truth. I'm constantly reminded of a little phrase in the scriptures, and it says that we are to redig the old wells, and we are to find the ancient past. I hope that you understand that that's actually the part of ascension. Blessings to each and every one of you. We'll finish next week with this concept, and I have to tell you, it's just as crazy as what I just shared with you, in the thickness of truth that exists. I hope that you'll find who you are. I hope that you'll find peace, and I hope that you'll recognize that the true you is more amazing than you have any imagination of. Shalom to each and every one of you. Peace and namaste. Okay. I've been reminded to say that we aren't having music today, so basically we are done here. I meant to say that last week, and I didn't until whatever gets washed out. It's all part of Source's plan. Right where I'm supposed to be, doing what I'm supposed to do. And I hope that you are too. Namaste again.